Arsenal won, AC Milan nil. AC Milan did beat us on penalties 6-5. Really, really tense penalty shootout. I'm not too hurt about that. But I'm more focused on the actual game of football itself, and I'll be ranking these players accordingly to that. And I've got to say, wow, there's a lot to talk about. We've got to talk about, of course, the players that look like they're going to leave, like Zinchenko, for example, maybe Trossard, Reece Nelson. But there's also the case of like the players who are looking to stay and how good they look today. I can't think of a single player that really played poorly. Now, what I will say is that even though I do see faults in some players, overall, I'd say they were at the very least, every player was at least a little bit better than average. As well, I have to say, AC Milan, they're not an easy opposition. No one is an easy opposition, and especially the history that AC Milan have. I wouldn't sit here and say, oh, we should have won this 3-0, we should have won this and that. No. Considering we still don't have all our signings available, we don't have Christian Mosquera, we don't have Madueke, we don't have Gyökeres. I would say that with this mostly the same squad, minus of course Norgard and Zubamendi, but otherwise a very similar squad to what we had last season, I can't help but sit here and say they played very well. And even a few things that I criticised players on, like let's take Raya for example. I have criticised Raya in the past about his distribution. Today, I thought his distribution was quite strong. This is quite new. This is quite new for me to say that Raya did good distribution, but I do hope it continues. Now, with that said, let's get into the player ratings. And of course, starting goal, David Raya. And I thought David Raya had a really decent game, if I'm honest. I don't think he was too threatened in goal. He did everything he had to do. As I said before, his distribution out of the ball was quite on it, actually. Very rare for him. He did, however, get substituted off at half time. I think if he played a bit more, he would have got a higher rating. But really, he kind of just did everything he had to do. I'm going to give him a 7. I'm going to look now to Zinchenko. And I thought he had a decent game, if I'm honest. He looked very in control in that left-back position. The AC Milan players struggled to get past him. They, he was clearing the ball. He was getting the ball on that left-back position. He was moving it up. Can't really complain about that. He gets a 7. Ricardo Calafiori, I thought he had a brilliant game. I thought he looked defensively solid. There's not really much else to say about him, though. I just don't think the attack could handle him. Ricardo Calafiori, I think if he got more time, might have had a higher rating, but I'm going to give him a 7. William Saliba, I'm going to give him an 8. I thought he was phenomenal. Probably the best person that we had there in the back line. What I will say is I remember that counter attack that AC Milan were doing. They were pushing upwards from the right wing. It looked like it was going to be a guaranteed goal. But then Saliba, out of nowhere, comes in, just puts himself in front of the ball, in between the ball and the player, calm as you like, and all of a sudden the danger's passed. I genuinely think if it wasn't for him, we might have drawn this 1-1 at best. But William Saliba, he's going to get an 8. Ben White. Going forward, Ben White was absolutely phenomenal. He was very on par with Bukayo Saka. But he also had quite a few defensive duties as well. Especially considering how much the AC Milan team seemed to love that left wing side. and that did put Ben White on the defensive duty, but most of the time, Ben White was making moves up to that right wing. Ben White, I'm also going to give him an 8. Into our midfield now, Norgard. Now with Norgard, first 10 or so minutes, he looked a bit shaky. He didn't look 100% on his game, but he did kind of calm down as the game went on. He did seem a bit more secure, a bit more stable. Not too much to really complain about, if I'm honest. I think maybe those first 10 or so minutes are very important for my judgment. But if I can see a bit more stability in him, I'm very excited for him as a player. Christian Norgard, what should I give him? I'll give him a 7. I'll be nice. Declan Rice, once again, he absolutely dominates that midfield. Genuinely, he is phenomenal. In every sense of the word, he's phenomenal. And he has that freedom. He finds that freedom all the time. And I think with Zubimendi on the pitch, he found a bit more freedom. And that partnership's definitely going to work out, I think, between Rice and Zubimendi. Now, with Declan Rice, he is making a lot of the actions happen, especially down that left wing side. But he also doesn't have a problem moving onto the right side as well. But in general, he was all over the place. He could have had a goal today. If it wasn't for that one AC Milan player in the first half throwing his own body into the way, he could have scored the opener. Very unlucky not to have scored that. He was in a really good position, just couldn't get it past that last defender. But I do think if he did get it past the last defender, it's a guaranteed goal. Declan Rice, he's getting an 8. Ethan Nwaneri, as a youngster, he plays really well. He looked aggressive. He looked strong going forward. There's not much else to really say about him, though. I'm going to give him a 7. Now, moving on to the attack, and I'm going to start with Gabriel Martinelli. Martinelli did push quite a lot. He took on the opposition. He made a lot of decent-looking attacks. And because of that, we continued to put pressure and more pressure and more pressure on AC Milan. 0 complaints from me. Gabriel Martinelli gets a 7. Kai Havertz. From a striking perspective, I didn't really expect too much from him. He did fall over that one time when it looked like a really good attack from the right wing. He did fall over that one time, but I'm not going to be too harsh on that just because it was a one-time thing. I also noticed, though, that he seemed to be getting into that right-hand side constantly with Bukayo Saka. There was a bit of a slight partnership going on between him and Bukayo Saka. I think it was working for the most part, but Kai Havertz, he did keep the ball down. He controlled very well. I don't think he really got caught on the ball too much. And once again, there is just nothing to complain about. Kai Havertz, I'm going to give him a 7.5. And finally, Bukayo Saka. Bukayo Saka, he got himself in all the right positions. He was constantly being a threat to the AC Milan. He was putting himself into positions where he's running in decent areas. He's moving the ball into the box. He's setting himself up absolutely immaculately. And of course, he got that winning goal, and that's really the thing that matters most more than anything else. But I do think this was also a big boost for his morale, his mentality as well, especially coming off the injury he did. I don't know if he had the knock when he was playing at Rome, but having a goal and opening a preseason friendly with a goal, that is a massive morale boost, and I really do hope we get to see more of that. But Bukayo Saka, for me, he gets a 9, and he is my man of the match. Mikel Arteta. Now, Mikel Arteta, he made tons of substitutions. He allowed Zinchenko to play. He allowed Ethan Nwaneri to play. He had to get Calafiori in. I didn't realise at the time that Gabriel still wasn't quite ready to play. I thought he would have been ready. But if he's not ready, if he ain't ready, then Arteta did the right thing. But even without Gabriel, that defense that we put up, Ben White, William Saliba, Calafiori, and Zinchenko, that is a very powerful back line. And considering as well that Zinchenko is probably going to leave us this summer, I can see why he did bring out Zinchenko, why he wanted him to give a few minutes. But in the end, Miles Lewis-Skelly came on. Who else came on? Odegaard came on. Kepa came on. Jakub Kiwior came on. Trossard came on. Mikel Mourinho came on. Nelson came on. Zubamendi came on. And he even allowed a few of the youngsters as well to come on. Nichols and Salmon and what was the other bloke's name? Whatever. But he allowed Max Dalman, that's his name. Why did I forget that? But he allowed them to come on to get a few minutes in a bit more of a professional setting. And watching them play was really, I can see why that they're on that bench. They looked amazing. Especially Max Dalman. Max Dalman looks so in control. And I can't fault the youngsters in any way. Maybe you could argue that because of the penalty that the other one did, I think it was Salmon that missed it. But look, he's a young lad. You know, the pressure of the world was on him on that. I'm not going to be too harsh on him. But for Arteta, he got the plans right. He made the substitutions that just made sense, allowing youngsters to get a few minutes in, allowing players to leave to make their mark and attract attention, allowing our new signings like Zubamendi and Norgard to thrive a little bit. Zero complaints. Mikel Arteta, 10 out of 10. He got everything right. The referee, not really too much to say about him. I think maybe the referee, he kind of just wanted to crack on with the with every time a player went down. But I couldn't see any real bias one way or the other. I have zero to complain about. I'm just gonna give the referee. I'll give him a 7. But anyways, that is my match review. Let me know what you think down below. Like, share, and comment, and please do subscribe. It really does help out the channel. And I will be seeing you for the match preview against Newcastle. Goodbye for now.